Um, all right, so we've hit on a lot of the really important things to understand between um, sap and tissue, mobile versus non-mobile. Gone down the rabbit hole pretty deep. Is there anything that you want to backpedal on that you and I were talking about that maybe we didn't get all the way through the subject? Because we touched on a lot of stuff today.
Um, Gosh, we did touch on a lot of things today. No, I'm just I mean, I got to go to a regenerative ag expo in San Luis Obispo, California last week, and it was really interesting. There was a study done on why people want to go regenerative, what was pushing the farmer, why they would even want to do that, and yields were still at the top of the list. They interviewed a lot of farmers and they created a word map with the biggest word, being the most said and the smallest word being the least said. And yields still at the top of the list. And soil health was just like right in the middle. So when you're talking about soil health and regenerative versus organic, and you're a consultant, or if you're a grower, I definitely would look at your top 3 reasons of why you want to go in one direction or the other and see if your reason match up with the way that you would like to farm. Because that information was actually really interesting, that large acre wine grape growers, the soil health aspect was actually middle of the ground for going regenerative. So it's interesting that maybe some people have expectations that aren't matching up with their farming methods.
So, organic versus regenerative, which one was yielding more? Did they get into that?
No, they didn't figure into that, but I mean, regenerative is, a lot of more types of growing fall in under regenerative. You don't have to be organic to fall under regenerative, right? You can be organic by neglect. You can be, growing organic where no one really should and pumping in a ton of water. Is that regenerative? No. Is that a good source of our resources or a good use of our resources? No. But regenerative is, I think, I do love organic, biodynamic, sustainable. I want everyone to move in the direction of, yes, you can farm with less nitrogen. You can, and I've seen it done on thousands of acres. Trying to find alternative ways for pests on large acres, not just on small acres. Looking at possible beneficial insectaries, understanding what that means. There are grants out there for actually planting native species. Tons of research out there that native species actually harbor beneficials. Cool stuff like that. That's all regenerative, but you can be organic too and do that as well. If I can have a conventional grower do 40% less pesticides and entering into the regenerative zone, because usually with one reduction, another one will follow. Hey, let's see if we can get away with 10% less nitrogen. Hey, let's try this. And then it usually follows. These steps follow into regenerative. And that could be a 2,000 acre grower that 3 years ago was just an MPK, chemical grower, that's the way he was feeding his family. But then he just found a new way.
Yeah, and I think it's important to state that regenerative means it's regenerating, it's making it better, it's increasing the indigenous population of plants, bugs, fungi, everything. And whereas organic is more sustainable, it's just maintaining a certain path. It's not pushing for greater soil health or greater diversity, ecological diversity. So, and I think that that's
merge the two. You can put the two together.
absolutely.
Yes.
I was all about the science behind organic and regenerative cannabis cultivation. I actually created a conference that we traveled the country because I understand the dynamics between both and how they should be merged. So that, yeah, you're an organic grower, but you also are regenerating the soil. You're not sustaining the soil. Because I think, at this point in time, we really don't have we can't go too much further down the rabbit hole of just pollution, take. We can't. That's not sustainable.
That's not sustainable. And
Right?
I will say that over 50% of all the Earth's population of species is found in the soil. And there is a new study out, enumerating soil biodiversity by Anthony et al. 2023. It caught my eye that if we have over 50% of the species of the Earth species, because the ocean's pretty big, in the soil, that if we're having healthy soil and regenerating it, that's for a reason that we can find 50% or more. Yeah. Boom. That's I'm in this space, and that's still, that it's still exciting for me to hear. And all those species must be in the soil for a reason if we do it right. That's all.
Agreed. Well, we know the reason because the fruit is bigger, it's sweeter, it's got more vitamins. Biologically grown systems or crops are what we're used to prior to the big push for the green revolution and NPK. We were all, as a species, humanity and all the animals and species that live on the surface, we're all way healthier. And that's kind of why it's so important that we push back toward regenerative practices. And to be honest with you, I'm amazed that soil health was in the center of that discussion. Because that's huge.
It was really, and that's why I took notice of it, and I have like 15 pages of notes. But it was interesting to match expectations to practices,
which is always a challenge.
Yeah.
The biggest challenge. The end of the day, if you don't make expectations, you're not coming back.
Right.